Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
I'm Sam Rossi.
And I'm AJ Carey.
Join us every Wednesday as we summarize and discuss true crime on Killing 15 Minutes.
That's right, 15 minutes or less on some sick puppies, serial killers, and criminals. Every Wednesday.
I write it, AJ reads it. Available on all major audio platforms.
Clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
And please follow us on all major social media outlets as well.
Alright, welcome back to Twisted Tales, folks. So my next episode here, you guys actually voted on, because I made a poll on Facebook there, so you guys ended up picking the Bermuda Triangle. And what do we know about the Bermuda Triangle here? Well, it's got a lot of craziness surrounding, like, missing ships, missing planes, whatever, right? Lots of facts surrounding that. So, a couple other things here. Well, it's nicknamed the Devil's Triangle. They also call it Limbo of the Lost, and, kind of lesser known, the Twilight Zone. But this isn't a Rod Serling episode, so, it's not going to be that good. But this area here covers some 500,000 square miles of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, even long before, the myth of the Bermuda Triangle became a thing, it was already very well known as, kind of like an enchanted island here. So they started calling it around, Devil's Island or whatever, right? This was mostly by, earlier sea travelers. So tales traveled from sailor to sailor all about these shipwrecks that started happening, and this was along the stretch of reefs. So tales kind of spun back as far as the days of Columbus here. Now this guy took detailed notes on his journey, his travels, all that, and he made some notes that he had a compass that actually went kind of haywire, it was just spinning around like crazy. There were strange lights that he documented. And there was a burst of flame that kind of blasted down into the sea. And this was on one of his journeys there one night there. So, there's lots of crazy sea stuff that goes along with this here, too, and I'll get into that. So, Columbus here sailed all over the place back in the day. So, this was between the time of 1492 and 1504. So, he was born somewhere between August 25th and October 31st, 1451, in the Republic of Genoa. So, this guy sailed, all through a bunch of places, actually, but, the Bermuda Triangle being one of them. This was upon his first voyage to the New World. So, his compass readings that kind of went haywire here that he thought to be a little crazy, this could have been, giving false readings due to magnetic interferences, because there's some evidence here to suggest that the magnetic compasses sometimes point true north as opposed to magnetic north. So example here, true north is a fixed point on the globe, and magnetic north is the direction a compass needle points as it aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field. So sometimes the magnetic north pole here begins to kind of shift, so it changes over time. In response to this, the Earth's magnetic core here, not a fixed point, so that's pretty much what could cause the interference or whatever, right? Now, the shape of the area here is kind of like a triangular shape that reaches from the Atlantic coast to Florida and, other islands there kind of surrounding it there, kind of around the greater Antilles area. So, there's always been reports of, ships disappearing here for no apparent reason, and all of this has went unexplained for some time, all the ships that went missing, or the planes, they transmitted no distress signal, anything of that, and they were just never heard from again. It's just kind of weird. So the ships here, like, even if somebody finds one, like, it's just weird when they're stumbled upon, right? Because they're just completely abandoned, but they fucking, they don't know why. There's just no apparent reason for it, right? Like, even the aircrafts that are known to disappear in the area, too, like, they're never seen again, and some believe that it's supernatural forces here. Others believe it's geophysical and environmental factors that take a part in this, too. Some popular theories here about, like, the geophysical stuff here. Now, the missing vessels here, it's said that they can be caught up in rogue waves. So rogue waves are very, like, pretty unpredictable. It's just high water waves. Now, these arise from the water's surface. They're formed from the stacking of, like, multiple wind-driven wave crests that pass through a single point. Or through, like, the combination of the waves and the currents of it all. It creates waves that tower twice the size of regular waves. Now, these are more treacherous to ships at sea because they can just capsize a vessel like it's absolutely nothing, right? These waves can wash crew members completely off deck, sweep them into the waters, and they're never seen again. And they're just left to die at sea. I mean, unless they're really strong swimmers, I guess. Now, these waves are, like, totally capable, like, damaging, like, oil, like, drilling platforms and stuff that are out there. Like, you see, like, an offshore oil rig or whatever. It can damage lighthouses, other things like that, right? So just an example here, the Drabner oil rig. This was located in the North Sea off Norway. Just an example here. So rogue waves had the heights of like 25 meters. So that's like 84 feet. So imagine 84-foot waves just smacking around everything, right? Like, totally nuts. Because rogue waves can form in, like, the ocean at any given time here. And some do believe that it's behind the sinking of several ships here. Like, this goes along with, like, the mysteries and all this shit, right? So, like, even with the legends or whatever, too, like, the conspiracies, all that, like, some say that the rogue waves just take all these ships, they come crashing down, and then they sink. And some people say, like, it's nothing to worry about, too. Like, planes and ships cross this area all the time. Like, it's no more dangerous than any other place, right? But, that may be so. But, I mean, death can occur anywhere at any time anyway, too. Like, even disappearances, right? All over the world. But, like, last time I checked, like, we didn't have huge ships disappearing for no apparent reason, right? Planes do go missing, but not, like, just out of the fucking ordinary. Like, oh, this guy was flying here and he never made it, right? But usually you hear, like, telltales of, like, a crash or something, right? Now, there was a bunch of this stuff during, like, World War II, for instance. Like, let's go check that out here. Now, Flight 19. Let's get into this one here. So, the direction that I kind of wanted to go with this was, like, the lost, like, planes and stuff. So this was in the Bermuda Triangle on December 5th, 1945. So it says here about 4 months after the end of World War II, there were 5 Avenger torpedo bombers that took off through the Naval Air Station, Fort Lauderdale. So they headed east for the Bahamas, just so they could practice like bombing runs or whatever on like a sunken ship. So the 5 planes and their 14 crew members went off, and they never returned. And nobody had heard anything, like, after this. Like, they had, like, their whole, like, distress call or whatever, right? Or radio for help and shit. So a search plane was sent out to look for them. And then that didn't come back either. So, like, that's a total of, like, 6 airplanes and 27 crew members that were gone without a trace. And there's no record reports either here, like, no crashes in the area. And there was no reports of, like, any storms, anything out of the ordinary here that, would cause the plane to just set out and disappear. Now, officials here believe that it ended up in the sunken, watery graveyard of the Bermuda Triangle here. And they're not really sure how, but some believe that, like, the weather might have had something to do with it, right? Or maybe, like, faulty equipment, stuff like that. Because, like, planes have been lost here a time before, but Even, like, base specialists checked the weather that day. There was nothing, like, too favorable, but I mean, like, it was moderate. The sea was, like, kind of rough, but not out of the ordinary, so I mean, they had to go back and check all this stuff out to see what happened to their crew. Mission Commander Charles Taylor had radioed in saying that they were lost. "Cannot see land," he said. "We seem to be off course." The Naval Air Station responded asking their position. All they got back was several minutes of radio silence. And then it was, "We cannot be sure where we are. Repeat, cannot see land." Contact was then lost for 10 more minutes, and then the tower received another transmission, this time from one of the crew members, saying, "We cannot find west. Everything is wrong. We cannot be sure of any direction. Everything looks strange, even the ocean." And then there was another delay, and then a voice saying, "We cannot tell where we are. Everything is... can't make out anything. We think we may be 225 miles northeast of the base." And the convo ended with, "It looks like we're entering white water. We're completely lost." Pretty wild stuff, though, eh? Like, imagine trying to communicate with your home base and then trying to maneuver through the fucking skies. And then, that's it. There's no more communication, no nothing. And that's the last anybody has ever heard of Flight 19. And this one right here, this actually stapled, like, the popularization of the so-called legend of the Bermuda Triangle. Now, another crew was sent out to go look for Flight 19. Some reported seeing an explosion kind of at sea. This was off Smyrna Beach around 7:50 p.m. there one day. So what they were doing was going to go look for the Flight 19 crew. And there was a little bit of stormy weather that day, whatever, right? So people really weren't sure what they seen falling from the sky, right? Now, the plane was a PBM-5 Mariner. So the PBM stands for Patrol Bomber Martin Company. So these bad boys were designed back in 1937. There was a total of 1,366 built, and then they were retired altogether in 1964. So the whole like plane going down thing or whatever that people said they saw, but the whole weather thing was a factor. Some had found an oil slick in the water around that area. So what they think is they saw the plane go down, but there's no reports of like the crew, the plane, no wreckage was ever found. And it is suspected here that it might have suffered like a mid-air explosion, so that's why people think that they seen the big explosion and whatever. And some think that there were no signs of like anything else, like that's it. The Bermuda Triangle just swallowed up the whole thing, and that was that. Case closed, right? Kind of weird that everything happens in the Bermuda Triangle, right? They did an expedition here back in '92 because they found a bunch of scattered debris on the ocean floor in that area. But nothing was identified as like belonging to Flight 19. And in the year 2000, the search was expanded farther east. This was into the Atlantic Ocean, and then still nothing was confirmed. And you got to think like about your weather and everything in that surrounding area. It does have erratic weather. It can pop off sudden storms, fog, like that can mess with your visibility. Hell, even like mechanical failures, like they can play a part in the disappearance of planes, ships. And who's to say a plane was actually fucking fully functional when it was sent out? I mean, I'm sure it was all checked out and safety or whatever, but like, what if something malfunctioned where the eye couldn't see, right? Now, back in those days, it was way more common to lose radio communications, right? No matter where you were. Now, when these accidents or mishaps do happen, it's usually like really far away from home or like rescue resources, I should say, right? Your comfort zone. And honestly, like then your chances of survival are pretty much shit. Like you're most likely to never be found again. And then in turn, your tale gets told about how you got lost in the Bermuda Triangle. And now you're just a fucking laughingstock. So, now people can just tell stories about you passed down over the years and shit. It's just a horrible mess, right? Even the ships, like, they're huge. You can see a fucking wreck pretty easily. But, like, unless you sink and then you gotta go, to the last known location of the ship and look around. But like, there's another disappearance here, like, was it the USS Cyclops? Like, this bad boy here was named after a race of giants from Greek mythology. So this bad boy disappeared without a trace. And this was March 4th, 1918, and it had about 308 crew and passengers on board. And to this day, like, it still, like, literally remains, like, the single largest loss of life in the history of the United States Navy, not directly involving combat. And this just kind of still goes with the whole story about being lost at sea and everything, right? This was never found either. And this puppy here was like, what, 542 feet in length, traveled at 15 knots, so that's what, like 28 kilometers an hour. So it then set out from, what was it, Rio de Janeiro on February 16th. So it got to El Salvador on the 20th. 2 days later, it departed for Baltimore, Maryland, and then it had no stop scheduled. Now, some think the ship was overloaded with supplies when she left Brazil, and then was over her max capacity, carrying like manganese ore, and that's used to make like your munitions and stuff. So before leaving port, a commander named Worley, he had noticed that the starboard engine had a cracked cylinder, and he submitted a report about it, and that was it. So that crack there had found its way to the survey board, and they made a recommendation that the ship return to the States, and then they would come to that harbor and get everything all fixed up. About 4 days later, it left Salvador on its way straight through to Baltimore, but it made an unscheduled stop in Barbados here. I guess they had a little bit of trouble, right? So they pulled off to go check everything, and then it was decided that they would just keep on going to Baltimore, and then they left Barbados, and then they were never seen again. There was no sign of it, ever. No debris, no wreckage, nothing was fucking recovered. Usually, like, after a wreck, like, stuff floats up to the top of the water, you know, like a wooden bucket or something, or like a life jacket, but nothing like that was ever found. Some believe they were sunk in, near St. Kitts by the German Navy. So again, no wreckage. And others believe it fell victim to the Bermuda Triangle. Now, a huge search was launched by the Navy here, and as of today, the loss is still a total mystery. And it's just a little known fact here, too. Like, it could just be a bunch of fucking coincidence here, maybe, but the USS Cyclops, like all her sister ships and stuff, there's the USS Nereus, and the USS Proteus. So, these guys here all had disappeared, too. All lost within the Atlantic Ocean. The Nereus was set on the same course as the Cyclops, actually. So figure that out, eh, folks? I mean, pretty cool little facts, I guess. Now, some tales surrounding the Bermuda Triangle here involve, like, paranormal activities, too. Some tales about aliens, all that stuff, right? But the Devil's Triangle here is just a crazy fucking place, like, mysterious more than anything. But what about all the connection to UFOs, you may ask? Well, I guess let's take a quick look here. Now, back in 1970, there was an American pilot named Ric Gordon. Now, he was flying over the Bermuda Triangle, and he came into contact with a mysterious cloud that soon opened up like a donut-shaped hole, and it was kind of like a swirling tunnel, I guess, of clouds and stuff. And the guy flew through that whole mess. When the plane flew on through, they noticed that the devices on the plane began to malfunction. So the flight to the Bahamas actually was rather quick. So they came out around that area, too. So the flight was supposed to take like a little over an hour, and it took a grand total of 35 minutes. Now, believers of this story and other UFO enthusiasts believe that the plane entered a time portal, which allows aliens to travel down to Earth. Now, it's said here that while they were in this electric fog for about the 3 whole minutes, a controller had radioed that they had identified an airplane directly over Miami Beach. So that's when Bruce checked the old watch, and he saw that they've only been in flight for 34 minutes. But they could see, like, Miami Beach directly below, everything, right? So they landed down, and then the whole flight took, like, 47 minutes, I guess, by the time it was all said and done. They realized where they were at and shit. And then they travel like, 250 miles, something like that. So that's something you don't really hear about that much, is like planes like losing time and shit, right? But I mean, that's got to be quite the adventure here anyway. Oh, another cool little thing here, like when the plane landed, they thought that maybe the time was off in the plane, but when everybody looked at their watches, all of them displayed the same time as the clock that was on the timer of the plane. So that's pretty cool. So, just a little background here on Ric Gordon here. Now, he's a certified seaplane flight instructor. He's a master's captain that has a Coast Guard license. And I bet you he's told this tale that I'm telling you like 36 times, because he did this on a whole bunch of different documentaries. So, he resides in Boynton Beach, Florida. Now, some conspiracy theories here say that extraterrestrials reside beneath the waves, like I just previously mentioned, right? So, this whole thing here, like, that they're responsible for the ships, like, disappearing, the planes disappearing, everything. Now, there's an existence of a third dimension within the Bermuda Triangle here. This exists as a theory, kind of, like many believe, like, what happened to Flight 19 or whatever, like, it went through this third dimension kind of thing. Now, there's also theories here that some believe it's the lost city of Atlantis that lays beneath the triangle. Well, a guy named Edward Case, he seems to think so anyway. He's the founder of an association for research and enlightenment. So this guy was born March 18th, 1871, and he died January 3rd, 1945, at 67 years old. So let's talk about a little bit about Atlantis here. So this fella here was like an American psychic or whatever. He documented and researched everything here. He did tons of stuff like that about like the lost city of Atlantis. So it's believed here that the sunken city was swallowed up by the Bermuda Triangle. Some claimed Atlantis was a real like continent located off the Bahamas. So this fell victim to the Bermuda Triangle, right? So supporters of this theory here, they try to like make the discovery of what looks like man-made walls and streets and shit underwater off the coast of Bimini. So this was all like looked at or whatever. It was like, oh, hey, we found the lost city of Atlantis, like right on. So this was up until like they were looked at by like scientists and shit. They evaluated everything, the structures, and they found them to be like natural beach rock formations. So there was nothing about Atlantis going on down here, but it's still kind of cool that like the tales of the Bermuda can like get into the minds of others so far that they go to like the depths that they do, right, to try to like do research on certain stuff, like, oh hey, Atlantis is down here and shit like that, or like, let's look at this third dimension, like that's pretty cool. So I mean, like, there's lots of certain stuff here surrounding all the tales of it, right? But I mean, like, you gotta have other people there to debunk the craziness and everything too, right? Like, and then again, you know, like some people believe that Atlantis was like much more of like a temperate version of what is now known as Antarctica, right? And there's lots of details that you can find about different shit like this too, I guess. It's just pretty cool little facts and little stories that I enjoy finding about this. Next up, we'll talk about the 1948 disappearance of the airborne transport DC-3. So this happened on the night of December 28, 1948. This was around the end of a flight from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Miami, Florida. So the aircraft carried like 24 passengers and 3 crew members. So the plane apparently just disappeared like as soon as it got in sight of Miami. But they did radio in prior, like saying, we're approaching the field only 50 miles to the south. We can see the lights of Miami now, and all is well. We'll stand by for further landing instructions. And that was it. The DC-3 just vanished from radar and totally off the screen. It's just a very weird thing for a plane to do, like especially on a clear night, right? So search parties were sent out, but nothing was ever found. And there's zero indication here of a crash or anything like that. And there was nothing further heard. So the whole aircraft there, like over the years, it did gain its notoriety that the Bermuda Triangle had swallowed it up and all that fun stuff, right? Now, divers actually found a DC-3 that was found in the Bermuda Triangle, but it wasn't the same one. So sucks, but, like I said, there's lots of planes that crash in the Bermuda Triangle, too. And, like, even, like, before, like, they took off and everything, too, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Like, the whole ship was flyworthy or whatever, right? Like, I don't know, it's just kind of weird, because, like, it was expected to be, like, routine, just like normal, right? You'd take off from San Juan, you'd fly in Miami, Florida, and the plane itself had, like, well, not the plane itself, but I mean, well, I guess that, and the pilot had, like, 28,257 flying hours. Like, it was certified airworthy. It was inspected, and it was actually given an overhaul prior to that, too. Like, they replaced both engines and shit, too. Like, everything was tested, like, afterwards and whatnot. Like, they did a whole flight test that was conducted to check the results of the overhaul. So it was deemed airworthy. It was just a weird thing to happen, I guess. I don't know. Like, some believe there were, like, maybe some human error related things that were involved, too. I don't know. But it was, like, 118 pounds overweight with cargo, too. Because there was a message sent to the plane about a change in wind direction that day. And the winds kind of looked strong enough to, like, maybe knock it off course or whatever, right? So it's unknown if the plane ever received that message from the tower. And the plane's electrical system wasn't, like, functioning properly either, like, prior to departing for San Juan. But, like, since then, there's been no other info on this, and the cause for the loss of the aircraft, still to this day, cannot be determined. So, I mean, like I said, there's all kinds of cool little crazy tales to go along with this. Just a little bit about the area here, too. Now, the coral islands of Bermuda, they're composed of a layer of, like, thick marine limestone. So this spans, like, 200 feet. And it's a little overlain by, like, a little bit of a fertile soil. So there's a layer of that. Now, the climate itself is usually pretty mild. Virtually all of, like, Bermuda's larger islands are inhabited. And, like, the main islands have, like, the largest concentration of people, mind you. But a lot of folk around the area think that it's just a normal place, just like anywhere else, though, right? Like, they don't see anything really wrong with it. Like, weird shit happens everywhere, folks. Like, the environmentalists and all that believe that the majority of the Atlantic tropical storms, the hurricanes, all that pass through here, have claimed a lot of the ships and the planes over the years. So, like, even, like, the Gulf Stream can cause, like, rapid and sometimes violent changes in weather, too. Now, the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Coast Guard, they mention that there's no real supernatural explanation for anything that, like, happens at sea or the Bermuda Triangle or whatever, right? And that's it. It's just accidents that are caused by, like, forces of nature and human error. But in all honesty, like, the ocean's always been a hell of a place for stories, foul weather anyway, stuff like that, right? It's just like a deadly place. But I mean, that's like anything, like land, sea, air, whatever, right? And no matter what part of the world you're in, like, even disappearances happen, like, outside of the fucking Bermuda Triangle, too. Like, there's a lot that I can fucking count on how many episodes I've done on disappearances and stuff. But, like, this specific area alone, since 1945, it's had over 1,000 vanishings. So, like, even Einstein himself believed that the triangle, like, could be like a cosmic doorway, which could also lead to, like, a different time, space continuum, whatever, right? And it's also theorized that, like, time refraction kind of states that time travel is theoretically possible. So, all this is on, like, Einstein and whatever, right? So, like, he's all gung-ho into this stuff. So, I mean, I'm not the scientist here, folks. So this whole thing on, like, the space-time continuum, whatever, right? Like, the whole thing, you gotta kind of think of it as, like, a river of time, right? Like, Einstein says, like, this follows the course of the universe. So it speeds up, slows down, kind of like this is, like, your stars and planets or whatever. So, like, some planets will move fast, some will move slow. So the whole, like, river of time thing, it's kind of like they have whirlpools and they branch off into two rivers kind of thing. So I guess when this happens, like, time travel can be possible. So, like, think of the two rivers, like, that branch off, like, as a parallel reality, I guess. So I guess, yeah, that's the whole thing on time travel. I guess I kind of got off topic of, like, the triangle here, so I try to incorporate some time travel into that. Yeah, what do you do, right? It's my show, I can talk about that. But maybe all the ships and stuff, like the planes, like, that all got sucked in to, like, some temporal vortex or something. I don't know, maybe that'll give you something to think about, right? So, it's pretty good stuff, man. Like, you think about, like, all the ships that go sailing through here, and, like, most of them on the daily, too. Like, they come back. And, like, what about all these other ones that aren't? Like, it's, probably weather-related. Maybe they all went back in time. I don't know. There's lots of possibilities here, folks. Even the old-timers have stories about the Devil's Triangle here, because it was known to them as a place where ships sailed off the end of the earth. So there's a tale here about some rum runners, too. There were lots of them back then, because they operated between the West End, the Bahamas, Palm Beach. All this was back in the 20s and 30s. Prohibition lasted from 1920 to 1933, so this illegalized, like, the manufacture, transportation, and any sales of alcohol. Now, around this time, the Prohibition agents, like, they didn't have speedboats or anything, so they were falling behind in the whole, like, catching fucking bootleggers and stuff. So, they would soon obtain vessels that could keep up with them. And then the bootleggers, what'd they do? They'd start flying shit everywhere, right? So, the bootleggers here, they ended up just going on about their business, whatever, doing the whole airborne stuff. And in reality, like, Prohibition didn't really stop people from drinking. It just kind of gave organized crime, like, fucking a ways to take over the helm, right? And they did that quite violently. They'd transport the whiskey, like, in burlap sacks. So, like, shipments would be, like, 6 per sack or whatever. 2 sacks equaled a case, and the bottles would be sewn in. Now, most of these guys would, like, fly through, they'd reach their destination, they'd unload their supplies, they get their money, they get paid, and then they'd fly back, and most would never make it home. It's like the fucking Bermuda Triangle just fucking struck again, right? Now, Florida back then was just a rum runner's paradise, right? Because being back in the Bahamas, just a big thing for rum and whatever, right? Now, there was a place called Nassau here. This was in the Bahamas. This had a port, and that whole port during all this, like, 1917 here, it only seen about 37,821 gallons of liquor, like, coming and going. And then by 1922, there was 1,340,443 gallons of liquor that came in and came out of that port. Quite the big little change here since Prohibition, like, took effect and everything, right? And a lot of these rum runners here, like, they just did this to make a quick buck, defy the law, and now they got to play the part of pirates. So, I mean, there's nothing cooler than that, right? And I got a tale here about, like, a little submarine chaser. Now, this guy here is like a little boat that operates against submarines. Now, they're designed specifically to destroy submarines back in the war, mostly used by the United States Coast Guard. So these were made in, like, World War I, so they were sold off after the war because they were shit, but, I mean, they found their way back. Like, they were just under different versions or whatever, right? So, these little dudes were stationed off the coast of the United States to stop the U-boats that were trying to destroy boats leaving from the American ports. Anyways, so they converted one, like, for just strictly bootlegging. So they used this to help haul booze from, like, Bermuda to Montreal, Quebec. So they filled the thing with whiskey, and then the American Prohibition agents, like, they got wind of, like, deliveries and shit, so, like, they catch you every now and again, not all the time, but they ended up boarding this little vessel here, and upon searching it, the agents found nothing at all. And the guy that was controlling the ship, he has no recollection of how he got there, so he either passed through the Bermuda Triangle here, and shit happened, or, like, he messed up with, like, some fog, lost his way. But, I mean, I think you'd remember a trip because you got to where you're going, right? So since the cops had nothing like to hold this guy to, like they just let him go on his merry little way, right? They kind of thought it's suspicious. I mean, like bootlegging is a thing, so I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't have been long before their paths would cross again, right? And the whole Erie Triangle just kind of struck again, right? Like that guy's memory had no idea, and it was crazy. His whole shipment of booze went, and yeah, no, it's just pretty wild. I mean, lots of bootleggers too. Like they were all pretty clever. Like they all had means of like transporting booze. They constructed shit. They revamped stuff like submarines and little things like that to deliver their booze to the surrounding islands. But I mean, once you set out on your journey, it's really unclear whether you're going to make it back to spend your speakeasy money anyway. And I guess the last thing I got here, well, before I tap onto this here, was the green mist I was going to talk about there. So there's some rumors that this has been seen around the area, but not really much is known about it, I guess. Oh, little known fact here, I guess the term bootlegging, too. That actually originated from the habit of hiding flasks in your boots or like your pant leg or whatever. So there's another little fact for you. And lastly, before I forget here, kind of wanted to mention that mysterious green glowing mist or whatever. So this stuff here kind of obscures the vision of the sailors that are traveling or the pilots or whatever, so it makes it hard for them to navigate through it. So this kind of steers them off course, they become lost, and they're never seen again. That's pretty much it. That's it. It's just green fog that is sometimes seen, but like nobody really in the area has really noticed this, so I mean it could just be like folklore or whatever. But I mean, you can believe what you want to believe, but I mean, some people believe that this green fog kind of caused all the compasses and all the other devices to not work properly, and then they wouldn't find their way back. They couldn't figure it out. And yeah, that's my episode on the Bermuda Triangle. So I mean, you guys can believe what you want to believe with this stuff too, right? Like the whole the green mist and the aliens, the time travel, whatnot, right? Like most of it's all like folklore shit too, but I mean it's like tales nonetheless, right? So I mean, why wouldn't I tell this stuff, right? And on that note, I guess that's a wrap, folks. So I want to thank you very much for tuning back into Twisted Tales, and I will pop off a podcast trailer for one of my friends' podcasts. So you guys can go check them out. And I really did have fun tonight, so it was really cool to do this episode. So I mean, I could have dug a little bit deeper into it, but I mean that just leaves more tales for next time, right? So I appreciate each and every one of you guys, so thanks for tuning in.
I'm Bryony.
And I'm Sam,
We have a true crime podcast called Trusting Evil,
in which we focus on crimes around domestic violence, child abductions.
murder cases, and much more.
We are straight talking,
But love a bit of banter.
and we do not shy away from the details that other podcasts might, so we are not for the faint of heart.
We want to get all the information to you and name and shame the monsters that carry out such heinous crimes.
You can find us on the majority of streaming platforms.
By searching Trusting Evil, and feel free to follow us on Facebook.
Twisted Tales.